I have something dumb. So,
Okay.
did it bother anybody else in the therapist's office that the wall he's sitting in front of is a bunch of snowy birch trees like he fell into when he fell off that train and was then captured by the Russians to become the Winter Soldier? I was like, he's doing therapy in his trauma scape.
That
Oh, that's
is 100% what I was thinking too. I thought they did it
Right?
on purpose. Yeah.
my eyes were drawn to it. I think our
Yeah.
eyes were meant to be drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
For they definitely wanted an impact. So then it's a matter
Mm-hmm.
of was it the filmmakers or the therapist? I think story wise, considering this confrontational therapist, I think she was trying to take a poke there.
Which made me think of like, absolutely there are therapeutic styles that are all about, you know, getting in and tussling.
Which
That's
could be exactly what this guy needs.
it could be. It could be. But it made me think of, when I talk to other therapists about being mindful of what you put in your office and how sometimes something that seems really mundane, you need to think about the population you're serving.
somebody talking about like how it's a spring, like it's transitioning for help for like character growth.
I think there was something metaphorical about it. I mean, those filmmakers, they don't make decisions like that lightly. But I hadn't considered Justine's point, and I can see them using it as, oh, the therapist is, post Hydra trying to get him back into Winter Soldier.
I think that they need to make sure this guy is not the Winter Soldier anymore. I think they need to make sure that Wakanda worked.
Hmm.
And she's going to push him, and she's not going to try to get him back to Hydra, but she's going to make sure he's safe.
Oh, that just the second you said that, Asher, that sparked something for me. Maybe it's like a litmus test. When he walks in the office, does he flinch when he sees the birch
Mhm.
trees? When have we desensitized him to walking into the trauma
Now,
scape? Is this exposure therapy?
we need to remember those words. There's that list of words. See if there's some little subliminal words
Mm-hmm.
like,
Well, you,
you
you
know,
see the words in the credits too. Like part of the list is in the credits.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I certainly have opinions. I mean, the 12-step program is very helpful for people in recovery for whom that peer support is a key role,
And spirituality.
and spirituality as well. Absolutely. Um, but I've also been in 12-step meetings where they say things like, don't take your psychiatric meds, you don't need them, outside the nurse's office. So I have my opinions.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the statistics, and it is hard to get success statistics from organizations that promote the 12-step programs. They had published them in earlier years, and the stats did not seem to indicate they did any better than a placebo. However, it has to be teased apart more carefully. And how are you going to do research on a group where the privacy and the personal issue, it can just as easily be, yes, there are those who are telling the wrong thing and they're screwing it up and they're messing up the numbers, the averages, compared to those for whom this is what they need. There are people who are able to stop drinking that day and never again, no matter how much they've had. There are people who they need to do this 12 steps and hang on to them. So it's, well, the known numbers aren't good. There's some complicated reasons why that doesn't tell us, even that fact that they're not good doesn't tell us anything.
Too many confounds too,
Yes,
because every group is different. And then
there's a technical word.
Did he just quiz Asher? No pressure, Asher, but you're being recorded.
No, I was telling the audience he used the term confounds as in confounding variables.
Oh, we need a bingo sheet, a psychics bingo
Ah,
sheet
Oh,
where
and to
and
keep track
the
of it along
sound
the way.
effect
yep.
too. That it,
Well, I mean, we
every
do need to
time.
throw in terms like Asher just did to reinforce the fact that, we're supposed to be teaching y'all stuff.
For 6 years before I got the job I'm in, I was a peer specialist.
Mhm.
And I ran peer support groups. And
Yeah.
looking at her peer support thing, yeah, it could be tough love, which is a huge thing with us. Talking to us direct. I don't think she does a very good job of it if I'm looking from the peer model. But yeah, I mean, That's all I did. That's what got me into this field, was being told, hey, you're decent at this, go further.
It probably is important for Bucky that he's talking to a military person as his therapist.
Yeah, I was thinking as soon as you were talking about the peer support, I was thinking of just my field, especially with grief and loss. And so because so many clinicians who specialize in like trauma-based therapy and grief and loss have experienced loss. And so I'm thinking about how my therapy is so different, or it can be considered somewhat controversial because of my own experience in grief and loss. So I don't know. I think it's important to have an insider's perspective of whatever you're working with, because there is a difference between this like crystallized knowledge of I have read something so much that I think that I truly understand it, versus no. Like I am an orphan. I was a young orphan at 21. And so how I relate to some of these characters who are also orphaned is different. It just is. And if I work with clients who are also either young orphan or people who have lost parents or something to the extent, is it peer support in the same way? Do we see it differently? I think that's an interesting idea, how we give it, I don't know, a different name.
It's building rapport because you can meet on a similar level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. And when I was going through my own treatment post Marine Corps, it was like, hey, I'm talking to this doctor who spent 10 years in psychology school. She might know what she's talking about. I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps, and I know that pretty damn well. So I had to like give her the benefit of the doubt, like, hey, I know this. Hopefully you know that.
Absolutely. And on the other hand, there's a concern of how much of your own experience do you start conflating with treatment?
There is a balance between having this and what you're saying, Dr. Billy, of I see you because I truly see you, because I've been in similar shoes, because we're never going to be in the same because of we were different people. But while still respecting the boundary of, just because I've seen an aspect of your life does not mean I know your life. That's like, this is the same thing of like having cultural humility, of being like, I've read 16 books about Black families. That means I know how to work with them. And so like I think it's different.
And that's the thing too, and keeping that just like countertransference and stuff like that, and over relating and not making the client feel like competition either, and making it about ourselves. There was a scene in one of the movies where actually Captain America, I can't remember what it was, the conversation, but as the audience, Captain America went through it probably way more severe than the character talking to him about it and telling Captain America, oh, I've experienced so much loss, something. Then Captain America just said, I understand. That was it. And I think on our part as therapists and clinicians, that's it. That's what that's where the pain is feeling so alone. It's not so much that we're afraid of suffering, we're afraid of being alone in our suffering. And unfortunately with grief and loss, which is a very complex issue, and PTSD as well, unfortunately, it feels like to us, the only thing that can comfort us is that thing or that person that we lost, right? So and that being said, I think it goes back to the therapist in this episode that we saw, where it's a great comfort for him to have someone basically talking shit to him. Because he dishes it back. You suck. My interpretation was he really respects her.
As a veteran, right? If I don't like you, I'm not talking to you. If I'm talking shit, I like you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, my interpretation was that they had a therapeutic relationship. That he trusts her enough to be honest, and that she, excuse my language, but trust her enough to talk shit. Like both of them. It's like, oh, being passive aggressive, huh? It's like, oh, you're gonna write your note and be like, yup.
I love that,
like I know that about her.
I loved how she rolled with it when he was like, "You're being passive aggressive. Everyone hates being called that." She was like, "You don't talk, I write."
Yep.
So then he came up with something.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't want to come across like I didn't like her because like Brittany, I totally agree. I saw that like I have a very playful rapport with my clients. I love clients that are considered, defensive or, don't want to go forward in therapy, right? Resistant is the word we like in our business. I love those clients because we can do that kind of like banter bullshit. What what struck me, what I was like, I don't love that, was the her directiveness and it felt hierarchical to me. Which I recognize is like I'm not in the forensic world. And so when I see people doing therapy, I'm like, oh, no, that's not. But I recognize it's a different type, it's a different style. It was when she was like, show me your phone. I was like, ooh, that feels like sponsor stuff. That feels like we're being hierarchical and we're checking in on our sponsee. That's when it crossed the line for me.
Yeah, she seemed a little controlling just overall in the session.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, it definitely came up for me too.
Yeah, that was that it kind of registered something in me too, where it's like, man, you're not his parole officer.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he
Maybe that's the
willingly
kind of work. Maybe that's the kind of work she's accustomed to doing, though.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say it was hierarchical. I think she made it very clear.
In those types of roles where you've seen success or what you've deemed as successful, like it's hard to get out of like, this is the way that I engage with clients. And I've seen it work, therefore it works. And something that came up to, I was thinking about while we were talking earlier is it's so interesting, one, to be a therapist and to be just someone watching this show and to say, that's therapy I would or wouldn't like. Because that's how we so often view therapy, of just being like, if I wouldn't do that. So that's bad therapy or that's not an approach that would be effective to me. And so it's kind of like what I was saying before we started. It's like, it's so difficult to say, is this one therapeutic session really a good quantifier of what it looks like every single time? I don't know. It might be how she rolls the whole time. I don't know, but it might have been a bad day. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate and trying to be a little more compassionate.
How do you imagine he'd respond to a more subtle or traditional, like softer therapeutic approach?
Oh, he would own that session. He would own it.
Like, define softer. Are you talking like Rogerian? Like, yes, he would eat a Rogerian alive.
Yeah.
But a narrative therapist or internal family systems worker, I could work with Bucky Barnes. I'm gonna write that fanfic tonight.
And how did that make you feel? Fine.
So full disclosure, I've actually, not in such a directive way, but I've done the whole, would you be willing to show me your phone thing?
Mm-hmm.
I had someone who I was working with who had a partner that was abusive and very controlling, and they were in the process of setting boundaries. They had already been separated. And I asked her, okay, so, how many times have you checked or have you spoken to them? Not did you speak with them, because the answer is going to be no, but how many times? And she gave me a paraverbal that raised a red flag. So she said, I didn't, but she looked away. She looked away in the way she said it. So I asked her, I didn't take her phone, but I asked her, would you be willing to let me look at your phone just so I could see? And she immediately broke and she said, no, I texted him 3 times. So
I work with Tank.
Oh.
So I'm like riddled with lies. I see, like, I know I can call you on your bullshit. Like, I work with 18 and 25-year-olds. Like, of course you're like trying to like minimize what you're going through or kind of be this other version of yourself that you can try to lie yourself into, or it's age specific too.
So with Bucky having his mind controlled so much, it does seem it would have been wiser for her to give him a choice so he can start exercising on how to make his own choice. This guy is he's a lost puppy right now. he hasn't had a free thought in ages. And so it would have been good. Hey, do you mind if I can see your phone so I can and let him know why, so he has more of a free agency? It's very easy for him to obey.
Consent. That's what
Yeah.
we're missing here.
Yeah.
That's what Bucky needs to learn. How to
Yeah, he
consent.
needs
Yeah.
a greater sense of agency in his own life.
Mhm.
Okay, I think everybody's done being smart.
I was just gonna say, like, just specific to the Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought it was really interesting to talk about the idea of this, like I said, the burden of legacy, and just thinking about how both of them are what I would consider burdened by, like, what does it look like when I have to be or have to step into this role that I don't feel like I can fit. And also the juxtaposition between Sam's idea of, like, I want to uphold the legacy of this family versus being like, I don't want the Captain America legacy. So,
Of course, with Sam, I always felt
Less people are let down.
Didn't even consider that.
well, it's because it's like there's this idea of, like, this identity of, like, what does it mean to be I mean, if you want to call it all these different cultural intersections, and then to be like, I have to hold on to this ship, and I have to hold on to like this manhood and all this other stuff, and then it's like, well,
Right.
I can't identify as this person because it doesn't, it looks like it's for somebody else, not me.
Yeah, he's hanging on to legacies that, the loved ones. Also, it's completely following Joseph Campbell's formula, the hero, where you deny the call and stuff like that. And then you got to meet your mentor and everything. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for how this pans out.
Well,
Who's
I know
gonna
there
be
were
his
a
mentor?
lot of people very glad for when Sam was Captain America, and I also I liked when he got to be the Falcon again, because I always felt like Sam deserves his own name, his own identity.
Mhm.
that fits him, that he fits in, or he feels comfortable in.
You have turns out to take over Falcon when he picks up Captain America in some of the storylines.
Do you think that's what's going to happen?
I don't know.
It has to be, because at the end of the end game, Bucky was very supportive of Sam being Captain America, of taking that shield. He nodded. He even nudged him over to old man Captain America. My dog keeps being needy. I'm sorry. Stop it. And so
Well,
it would make sense.
Yeah, because Bucky knew when he was leaving, he wasn't coming back. He knew already.
Yeah.
Now, how he knew? Did he tell him, or did he just assume?
My first thought had been that Bucky just knew Steve that well that he knew, and later I thought, actually, I kind of think maybe Bucky and Steve had a conversation the night before, and Bucky practically said, "Yes, go to her,
Yeah.
or go to her, dude, whatever."
We'll find out.
I don't think I think that's one of the things we don't have to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because especially when he says, like, you're taking all the stupid with you, like, that's not a 5-second goodbye.
No, he
Yeah.
knew Yes, and he's the one who said he would miss him. He knew Steve was going one way or another. He knew,
and he said it'll be okay. Steve did.
and when Steve's over there, Bucky doesn't go. He just tells Sam, "You go."
Yeah.
Yep.
It was a
already
nice
said
one.
it,
Honestly,
guys.
it's the nicest moment we've seen between Bucky and Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's hard when you share a best friend, right?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of like fight over the best friend, even if that best friend loves you both equally. It's like, I'm the old best friend, you're the new best friend. It's tension.
Ooh, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that too. There's going to be some sort of dialogue where, well, I knew him when he was younger. Well, I knew him when, he was in the modern time, and I helped save him from an alleyway. Well, I saved him from this fight.
I mean, that has always been implicit in the interactions between Bucky and Sam, even though they've never said that out loud yet.
Well, and they kind of did it in Civil War when, like, Bucky's arms in the tire machine, and he's just like, your name's Steve, and you just put newspapers in your shoe. He's like, oh, we're supposed to be cool with him now because he knows that.
Right. And then the whole seat thing. But they had the bonding moment when he kissed the girl. So
Oh, that's true.
That's a whole. I did not like that. I did not feel like there was nearly enough buildup for us to be like, yeah, Cap and Peggy's niece. They're what sexual
Granddaughter.
tension? Like, it felt like it came out of nowhere for me.
Well, that's cool on the comics, though,
And I
right?
still reject it.
They have a longer, drawn out sort of courtship in the comics that develops.
The mutual acknowledgement that, okay, we were doing our flirting and heading somewhere, but we've missed it. This is okay because he needed to go back to. In the movies, they never indicate that she's related to her, do they?
To Peggy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
after
it's in there.
the funeral.
At the funeral, they do.
Oh,
Okay.
the female. I thought you were talking about the Cap.
Yeah.
No, she's not related to Cap that we know of.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. She's like, because she says Aunt Peggy.
Mm-hmm.
I just made out with Uncle Captain America.
Go.
All right, and on that note, tune in next week.
Billy,
Alright.
stop it. You're freaking me out.
It's so creepy.
I see your tongue moving, Billy. I know you're there.
It was nice meeting you, Travis A.
Pleasure to meet you too.
It's just us now.
Oh, my eyes are so dry right now.
I believe it.